It's the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 11. I'm going to start at verse 10, and it reads, verse 9, Salakia, says, O fear the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, shall not want any good thing. Verse 11, come ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua. I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to Call Haloyim La Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem. Honors to the elders, to the apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutation to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives, as well as their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and Aquath out there listening and learning. Lord, willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, subscribing to this truth. To you, I say Shalom. So, Brother Yahweh, coming at you with another lesson through the Spirit and through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yahweh meaning he is, he exists, or he to be. Ba'ashem, Ba'as, in, Haz, Hashem, his name. Yahushai meaning he saves, or he delivered. True name to the Most High God and the Son. These people ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, but whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Salakia, this lesson is inspired. Salakia, this lesson is inspired by, it's a guy that I used to watch. He's an economist, or I don't even think he calls himself an economist. He goes into the economy, he goes into strategies to make money, is the American dream. I was just a fireman, and I just want to, and you're going to come to find out that a lot of these people that you look to, that you think and believe in and trust in are literally going to be stumbling blocks, That's why the scriptures talk about study to show thyself approved, That's why the elders, the beloved elders and apostles, they in the spirit of don't just take our word for it. And that's rare, I'm actually understanding a lot about the situation now. I did see it. Which is deep, because at the end of the day, the elders expect a certain, expect you to come in a certain kind of spirit. They expect you to do, those protocols and certain things that you got to do to be a part of, to be affiliated. But at the same time, they looking at it like you grown, so they can't hold your hand. They can't watch your every move. You're not a baby. And that's deep. The scriptures do say, seek out ye own salvation with fear and trembling. So only you and Yahweh Bashem Yahushua knows what's truly going on. As a brother, as an elder brother that always used to make the statement, God knows, That's deep. Sent chills down your spine, huh? But anyhow, I was listening to this guy, his name is Economic Ninja. He goes into the economy and certain stuff. And a lot of these people, I forgot, when a lot of these different individuals that have platforms and bring out information and whatnot, they'll ask you, type this if you feel this, type that if you think that, or if you feel like this. And, everybody doesn't understand probably why or what exactly is going on, but that's a way to actually categorize and actually keep track of who feels what kind of way. I remember brother brought out the information about that Project Zypher, where you got individuals, they got certain platforms that's actually set up by Esau. They not agent provocateurs, but they always go into Candace Reese. I said Candace Reese. Candace Owens being one. And the elder was just speaking on this guy, Alex Jones, and damn, that's crazy that I can't think of these people's names. Tucker Carlson, they set up to have talking points, so controlled opposition, So, again, just, you got to be careful. We got to be careful even what we bring out, That's what we're supposed to filter information. We're supposed to filter a lot of stuff. It's a lot going on. This caught my attention, though. Yeah, I used to listen to him when the Lord put the Spirit on me to start trying to get into finance and understanding, economics and whatnot. Because again, I didn't get just a download like the Matrix, to just Lord put the spirit on me on something that I was never interested in. I was never interested in how money worked. I was always just interested, give me some money. Sounded like a woman, I remember my neighbor said some shit like that. You ain't gonna go earn, you just want the Lord to just send it to you. Kind of witchcraft shit is you doing? Right. Anyhow, best believe somebody somewhere is doing some kind of money ritual too. Believe that. I was listening to the elders. They've been in the spirit. A lot of brothers bringing out, how Babylon the Great was founded and founded by, these Freemasons and, how pretty much a lot of Babylon the Great is, pretty much involved in these secret fraternities. Shit. And you got to say 2/3 of Jake too. You got to think about Benjamin Banneker. A lot of people don't even know that's who designed Washington, D.C. So when we see all that sacred geometry and, pretty much witchcraft, it was a Jake involved. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, but I heard something that the elder brother said. He said, Jake might have physically did wickedness, but at the same time, spiritually, if they're Israelite, they are pretty much to a degree innocent. You got to remember Esau, Edom is the accuser.
Got too much garbage on your phone.
I'm a little bit all over the place, so not sure what the title is, but he caught my attention because he said something. The lesson it motivated me to make a lesson about fear. That's why I started off, let me show you the fear of the Lord. Because people forget the fear of the Lord. People act like we just didn't witness earthquakes back to back and thousands of people come up missing. People act like it wasn't just these major fires going on in all these different states. People act like you just didn't have that whatever the fuck chemicals was in the air. Again, and now that I think about it, like, because brother was like, you want me to believe that smoke went from Canada to California, right? Although California on fire, right? That's what you want me to believe, right? He said, get the fuck out of here, right? But the thing is, I could tell so fishy with it now too, because the thing was, I remember a particular brother, the brothers from New Jersey, he was saying one of the brothers in they camp pretty much was talking about how his chest was hurting. And he went into the effects of those chemicals in the air going into Jake's and, everybody's lungs, everybody that's in Babylon the Great. And it's funny because I came across a video just yesterday where it was a doctor going into that. So when they said the forecast about, what to be looking for, they said smoke. I was like, I've never heard that in the years I've been alive. And I'm like, the fuck, is they trying to be funny? And you got to remember, these devils' sense of humor is like sadistic. So I'm a little bit all over the place. Again, the scripture talk about fear of the Lord, and a lot of people don't possess it. You know what I mean? Well, that's why, a lot of people going to catch themselves in a bad case. Fear is a great motivator, and that's the statement that the individual says, the guy, the economic ninja, because fear will stop you from doing something. Like what's that in Second Ezra? It talks about the scourges are for amendment. So when the Lord get on your ass, it's supposed to be for you to change your ways. But it says, I know I'm a butcher. It talks about how they're not going to always be mindful of the scourges. A motherfucker get whooped and then forget about the whooping. And, the Lord, I remember one time I was around a Jake, and, he'd been in the street for years. That's all he knew. He was like, his father pretty much had been in the street. That's how he was like, he was connected with his father. And I was like, he was like, my father never telling me. And I thought about that shit because I'm like, you ain't seen movies, and movies is based on reality. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised what people have done. What was that, Madoff? I think Madoff's son toked on his father, said he did that shit. Bernie Madoff, that Ponzi scheme they had going on. You'd be surprised. Because what they say, that's why there's a saying, they say blood is thicker than water, but then what's the name said, he said, fuck blood. He said, Lordy's thicker, That's why it's a powerful thing with this truth. This truth, goes beyond blood, because it's spiritual. That's why Yahweh Shah said what he said. He said, who's my mother, who's my brother? But those that do the will of the Heavenly Father. Scriptures tell you that your enemy's going to be of your own household. And we seen a taste of that in 2020 when you had family members not even allowing family members within their vicinity. So Lord, these things you got to keep in mind to keep you in a healthy dose of the fear of the Lord. You know, that's why I finally get what the brother was saying when he made the statement about if I'm not catching hell, sometimes I get nervous. Because as long as the Lord chastising you and you still doing the right thing, then more than likely you're in the good graces of the Lord. You know, if he chastising you, that means he got his eye on you. You know, he got his scope on you. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like when the Lord ain't speaking, when the Lord ain't really got nothing going on, you gotta get nervous. You know, and that's a healthy dose of fear of the Lord. So let me play this. Well, I think I was on this on deck. It says, I'm going to start at verse 9, Proverbs 9:9. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, he will increase in learning. Verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. Let me skip to, do I got Isaiah? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 33. In verse 6, and it reads, I'm going to start at verse 5. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahshua is to Salaki. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahshua is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. You know, and right now he's judging the shit out of Israel, Yasharallah. You know, the northern kingdom still got ICE chasing them down. You know, you just had Jake, that young Israelite, what's his name? Noah Xavier Wells. And then I just watched the brother from, one particular brother. He did a video, which I'm going to go find the video he used, because I don't want to just use this video, But he was going into Jake speaking on how many pretty much people that they found like pretty much being lynched around Babylon the Great, aka America, since 2020 till 2025. He said over 70 people. And pretty much they hold, the police pretty much don't move forward with the cases because of the fact they say it's not no evidence. They don't have enough evidence to proceed. So they label it suicide. Like, who take the time to really go, if anything, you would see an Edomite do that, because Jake used to catch a hell. Jake could get comfortable in the hell. That's how fucked up Jake is. Trust me, I'm from the ghetto. You get what I'm saying? Like, Jake could learn to make a way in the ghetto. It's Esau that's used to having that ain't gonna have, that's gonna lose their fucking mind. Why you think you got all these videos floating on TikToks and YouTubes with these Edomites going apeshit crazy because of the conditions they're going through, when Jake used to being in poverty? So that's offensive in itself for you to say that this person took the time. And then, they done found women that was basically missing, so you don't know what. And that's ultimately the Lord. The Lord judged the people in order, but at the same time, the Lord recognizes and knows every spirit. Esau got a hell of a judgment coming, and he gonna fight. The Lord got a spirit on him that you can't tell him shit. You know what I mean? That's why his fall is gonna be harder than ever. That's why the scriptures talk about in Proverbs 16. It talks about pride come before the destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And Humpty Dumpty was an egg, wasn't it? So when that motherfucker cracked, it says, Isaiah 33 and verse 6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. So the wisdom and knowledge is of these truth. And that's going to be your strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Let's look at the word treasure real quick. I never used to do this. I felt like Moses. I didn't like speaking in front of people. It's so cold what the Lord did too, because when I went off on my own, I had to speak. Or how much did I truly believe? Brothers that know me knew that I don't like to speak. I think out of all the years I was in the camp, I probably spoke twice. Because I'm not a good orator, you know what I mean? Like, I used to always love to read, but I never put words together. Well, I might know a fancy big word. What the elders say, a $10 word, a $20 word here and there, but, I'm not an orator, So the Lord will try you, and you'll be made better for being tried.
Strong's H214, Otsar.
It says treasure, storehouse, treasure, gold, silver, supply of food or drink, magazine of weapons. Where'd that come from? storehouses of God for rains. Well, all these things are needed though. Wind, sea, rain, treasure, but it goes into pretty much gold, silver, treasure, house, treasury. So something that's of value. So when you actually recognize the fear of the Lord, because the scriptures tell you that the Most High God, he hates pride. I think that's Proverbs chapter 6. Matter of fact, let me get that. Proverbs 6 and 6. I ain't brought this up in a very long time. I couldn't even think of what it was. I mentioned it the other day, but I couldn't think of what it was. It just popped in my head today. Call law yum how about you shah. Let's go into Esau Edom, a naughty person. But I'm going to the point, Proverbs 6 and 16. These 6 things doth the Lord Yahweh shall hate. Yea, 7 are abomination unto him. A proud look, that's the first thing, pride. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises of wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief. A false witness that speak of lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. And when you go into each one of those are attributes. Those are actually things that the Edomite has done. This like adjectives of the Edomite. This is the nature of this Edomite. He's got a proud look. Like I said, DJ Trump right now talking shit. You can't even secure the Strait of Hormuz, but you talking about taking over Greenland. He just talk about taking over the whole area and basically putting a toll. He talk about taking over Greenland still. He just talking out with chest poked out and everything. And then you already could tell that DJ Trump is like not pitiful, what was the word? Like a weakling though. Like you could tell. He's biting you a Biden this shit. And then Biden did such a great acting job. This nigga talk about writing memoirs. The nigga couldn't even figure out where he was when he was when he was in office. Remember he just walking off in the sunset and shit. I mean, again, Bush Jr. did the same shit. He played dumb. Bush Jr. is far from fucking dumb. No, they look at you Babylonians, you average Americans, you peons, you copper top as, because they peeing on you. You know what I mean? Like DJ Trump made a video shitting on you. He said, no Kings protest. He shitted on the people. So again, like the elder brother, I was listening to a brother video. He was talking about it was a female caught a little boy in there with her 13 daughter. She didn't ask no questions. She just killed him. That's the spirit that's in the world right now. Motherfuckers, how he said people gonna shoot first and not even ask questions. And that should have you in a healthy fear of the Lord. I got another one. Then I'm gonna bring out the video because I mean, again, like I said, motherfuckers act like the people people woke up that day in Venezuela and, Japan. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go do this. And that earthquake happened. And, and you got to remember, they not telling, like, you think they told you how many people they maybe have, I don't watch world news like that, but at the same time, they said that it was people missing. If they missing, more than likely they dead. So the numbers of who's dead and who's missing ain't add up. I bet you a lot of people that they said was missing never got found. So now they're considered what? This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 and point is verse 39. I'm going to start at verse 36. For the Lord Yahweh shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants. When he seeth their power is gone and there's none shut up or left. And he shall say, where are their gods that rock in whom they trusted? But the God that we supposed to wholeheartedly trust in is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. The scriptures tell you in the book of Psalms 96 that the gods of the other nations are idols because the Most High God is the Father of spirits. So, these demons on the left-hand side, what's that? Isaiah 45 and 7, I create darkness. I create the light. I create, I butchered it. But he say, I create good and evil. I create darkness and light. I, the Lord, Yahweh shall do all these things. So the demons on the left-hand side are in perfect order with the will of Yahweh shall, just like the spiritual angels on the right-hand side, because that's a full power, They try to give you like this God that's, he created a creation that became greater than him. No, it tells you in the scriptures that the Most High God is so cold, he created, Yahweh Shah, and Yahweh Shah created everything else. It said all things bend to Yahweh Shah. Why do you think he could control the demons? Because they was in subject to him. And if you in alignment with Yahweh Shah Mashiach, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, you will have power and control over the demons as well. My prayer of recently has been pretty much, because you're going to fear something like the brother been saying, but if you really in perfect alignment with Yahweh Shah, Hamashiach, or Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, you going to just fear Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. You ain't going to fear the demons or man, or you ain't going to, scripture say, fear not one that can kill the body, but fear the one that can kill both the body and spirit in hell. It's the book of Deuteronomy 32 and verse 38, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings. Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. So the Lord says, since you ran to these idols, let them be the ones protect you. He said, verse 39, see now that I am he, and there is no power with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. So the Lord said, I can either save you or I could take you out. The scriptures tell you in Psalm 68 about how the issues of death belong to the Most High. So that alone should have you in a state of constant, perpetual fear. Not fear to do his will, but fear of him. You know how I seen dudes sit up there and ready to fight every nigga they seen, but let the white man come, the Idumean, the police officer who, motherfucker got a badge on, and now the nigga scared. I'm talking about he ready to fight tooth and nail, nigga have a gun, knife. I done seen these things in my eyes. White man come, they forget about the strength you just was in, you afraid. Now I've also seen I remember one time this young Jake, these two old Edomites ran up on young Jake. Young Jake was with his brother. He said, run up on me if you want. They told me, come here, fuck you, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen some shit, you know what I'm saying? That's why when the Lord that's why I totally believe that when the Lord put a spirit on Jake, you're not going to be able to stop. That's why the elder just named the video, Who Shall Rouse Him Up? Because Judah's an old lion. No, the Lord going to be able to rouse him up, though. So let me bring out this. I brought out enough scripture, So let me play the copyright disclaimer.
This is how I made this hoodie with a print and a tag in under 30 seconds. Just pick a blank, drop your design, and place it.
Copyright disclaimer, fair use, fair use. So let me play the video. Look at this shit. It just was playing. This is crazy. I hope you all can hear me.
But of him are ye in Yahweh Shah Mashiach.
Shit crazy. Satan being busy. Lord, let this video play by himself.
Last night, I could not sleep. I was moving from concerned
The water y'all, but you shut.
to fear after being bombarded with videos and information that I honestly believe the Lord showed me based off of how big AI is getting and how fast you are going to see people. And it'll almost be like a light switch where all of a sudden nobody has work. And I've been getting bombarded with this information lately. Now, before you race to there's going to be one guy. There's going to be one guy, maybe two, that race to the comments and start quoting the Bible where it says, fear not, the Lord, all this stuff is good. God gave us a good head on our shoulders to think. And if you go back to the Bible, there were lots of times where God's people starved to death, were slaughtered, and completely without money because they did not see the warning signs ahead. And I'm going to start with one quick Bible story. There was one where a man was warning about a coming famine, and God's people weren't paying attention. They were just living their lives, not watching what was going on. And eventually they needed money. They needed food. They couldn't grow their own food. They were having problems. So they had to go to their enemies to ask for food. And the enemy gave them some food to keep going. But in return, they sold their livestock, right? Then a couple of years go by, they don't have any more food. They got to go back to their enemy. The enemy gives them more food. And then finally, it happens like 3 times. And God's chosen people come back and say, we're just going to sell ourselves into slavery. We'll be your slaves. Just feed us. And if you don't think that's not using a good sense of fear, because God says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of understanding, then you don't understand fear. Fear is a motivator. Fear keeps you off the railroad tracks when the train is coming at you because you're afraid that if you get hit, you're going to not win that battle. You're going to die. And I saw a warning from Elon Musk the other day where Elon Musk, and I'm going to read this post, says that time is running out. Now think about what's going on here with AI and how fast jobs are getting taken. At most, he says there are 3 years left in which you can still make money selling your work. After that, AI will automate most tasks, and paying a person for their time will no longer make.
I'm gonna play it one more time because again, to me, it's like he like a what do I call that? Control opposition, because again he's making it seem like he even quoted the scriptures, which I believe that's in the Genesis chapter 47. He's basically talking about when Joseph, but he doesn't even understand Joseph because that's when Joseph was the viceroy of Egypt, and pretty much he utilized that dream, with the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. So he stored up, when they had the years of plenty for the years of famine. And it got so bad, pretty much, that's the recipe they about to try to come to now to bring everybody into subjection, like Lord of the Rings, like the one ring to rule them all. I was listening to some particular brother speak on that. He was just going like, again, I was listening to him in awe because I was like, damn, the way sometimes certain brothers orate and they speak and how they line certain things up with the scriptures and certain things you say, you like, yeah, this got to be from the Lord. You know what I mean? Like he's going into how like this devil's track worker, he's always want to be in a position of he's like a God to us. And he said, why do you think that is? And I was like, damn, that's deep. Because he said, basically, Israel going to go back to what the Heavenly Father want. We are a very spiritual people. Only a spiritual people would have been able to endure what we endured. You got to think about it. We went through the worst. When you go up into the history of the transatlantic slave trade, that's like the worst atrocity done to man in recent history. Like, it was some atrocities. You got to remember, you had huge genocides. What I'm saying is that involved death and all that, but just to take a group of a nation of people and put them into hardcore bond, that's how that was the will of the Lord. You know what I mean? Like for that to even be done on a scale like that. And then a lot of Jakes don't even understand when we say Gad is one of the tribes. Gad went into slavery as well. They went like they was first. The last job, well, not the last job I had, I was working a job with the Northern Kingdom. And the funny part is, Like we both came in, they hired us for a week, but then they was like, oh, you can get hired in permanently. The job they had us doing, you had to be fast. So we did such a great job on it. The dude bought us pizza. And, you know, it's a fucking heathen. He bought us pizza and ribs and pizza and chicken. So then he put us in another position, and we go to these positions. And long story short, I'm watching them groom him. They was like, well, pretty much you can get hired in within 3 weeks. You know, the way contract was, it wasn't a 90-day probation. It could be 45 because it was a union job. So he fucking with me talking about I'm moving slow, but he ain't fucking with dude. He gave dude the application the first week. I talked to another guy. He like, yeah, 3 weeks, we'll give you an application. But I'm looking at what's going on. Long story short, though, the spirit jumped on me to show, Northern Kingdom, the Ephraimite about the truth. And he was like, he don't really believe, he read the scriptures, he don't really, he trying to figure it out, But when I sent him the links, he was appreciative of that. Because we used to talk about certain things that's going on in the world. That's why I was like, he was more interesting to speak to than the average nigga, because the average nigga, like I asked the one Jake at the job, I got pissed off about it too. I'm like, you familiar with the guy Nolan Wells? He like, no. So what good are you for your people, period? I was listening to something the elder said. He was talking about how you got a lot of women in the spirit of they don't need a man, but they believe that the police is obligated to help them to put their lives in jeopardy for them. And that's not the case. There's no constitutional rule that says the police supposed to come and risk their lives to save you. That's why when the shit get bad, a lot of them going to literally be nowhere to be found. I stayed near a police station. I'm talking about I stayed right across the street from a police station maybe a minute ago. And now, I'm talking about in this area, that's how you know it's going to be bad. I grew up in the era where we used to get chased by the police. Even if you weren't doing shit, you just fit the description. You could be walking home from school. Now, I'm going to be honest, we was doing nigga shit. But what I'm saying is, I also wasn't doing anything got fucked with. So to watch the police be so nonchalant, or everything when crime is way more severe now than it was, back when I was growing up, the crime was niggas might get into some shit, but they robbing a dope boy or something like that, the biggest crime was selling drugs. And the thing was, it was money out here where you had people that was on drugs selling drugs. You get what I'm saying? It was money out here that you might get in trouble, catch a case, and be able to bond out within an hour. Now you might not bond out depending on where it's at and what time until, the next day. So my point being is that everything has sped up, and it's so, makes you think of second Ezra chapter 5, talks about the iniquity growing roughly. I don't feel like getting it. But we can't just speak on the scripture. You speak on it, you bring it out, right? The second Ezra chapter 5. And it reads, I'm going to start at verse 1 and reads, nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, meaning the prophecies, behold, the day shall come that they shall dwell upon the earth shall be taken in a great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. Because the only people that's going to really have faith is the hopeful elect, the believers, The rest of these people got no faith or hope in nothing now. It's actually despair, which when you go in the word despair is hopelessness. People don't believe in shit. Most people don't even believe in the Heavenly Father. They believe in Donald Trump or the government. And the government already showing you not to believe in them because they cutting shit off. I was listening to an elder brother speak, or is a brother, I watch a lot of videos or listen to a lot of videos. I can't remember exactly who said it, so Salakia, but because, I come from the age you give credit where credit due. That's why we always bigging up our elders. We didn't come and get this knowledge ourselves. The Lord allowed us to receive it. And that's a precious gift in itself because, that's fear. You watch men come in this truth that was in here before you, and then they're no longer, I was just listening to the elder speak on the head of Detroit, and I was like, well, damn, I remember he wasn't the head. So that means that if he is truly the head, where the head at? And I know, individuals went through that before. The Lord, if he can't use you, he'll get rid of you. And that should get and put fear in you. Verse 2, the point, but iniquity shall be increased above that which now thou seest, or that thou hast heard long ago. So it's saying it's gonna be a time like none other. If the Lord got to send the archangel Michael to defend us and protect us, it's gonna be bad. He gonna have to have spiritual intervention. Play this one more time.
Hey, sweetheart. Honey.
And paying a person for their time. Last night, I could not sleep. I was moving from concerned to fear. For after being bombarded with videos and information that I honestly believe the Lord showed me based off of how big AI is getting and how fast you are going to see people. And it'll almost be like a light switch where all of a sudden nobody has work.
I mean, when you go into the Industrial Revolution and these different things, like it's showing you that the power that these men possess, they're able to, bring forth great change overnight. Think about the cell towers and the 5G shit. Then they went from 5G, now we're talking about 6G. Think about how quickly they took everybody from off of the analog signal to the digital. Look how quickly they just basically got rid of all the payphones. I used to love a payphone. Why do you think they did? They didn't like say again. I was like one of the few people when I was homeless that I knew where it was probably like 2 public phones that continue to work. Now it's no public phones. You got to think about that. Why? What's the purpose of that? Because it's nothing but happenstance or coincidence.
And I've been getting bombarded with this information lately. Now, before you race to there's going to be one guy. There's going to be one guy, maybe 2, that race to the comments and start quoting the Bible where it says, fear not, the Lord, all this stuff is good. God gave us a good head on our shoulders to think. And if you go back to the Bible, there were lots of times where God's people starved to death, were slaughtered, and completely without money because they did not see the warning signs ahead. And I'm going to start with one quick Bible story. There was one where a man was warning about a coming famine, and God's people weren't paying attention. They were just living their lives, not watching what was going on.
And the scriptures talk about that they're going to grope in darkness as in noonday, roughly paraphrased. So pretty much it's going to be stuff going on, and because the Lord spiritually blinded you, you're not going to be able to see. So this is all scriptural,
And eventually they needed money. They needed food. They couldn't grow their own food. They're having problems. So they had to go to their enemies to ask for food. And the enemy gave them some food to keep going. But
he don't even really. He talked about how he believed in God. I believe God told me this. Like you can see this fat Pillsbury, like with the whole cab haircut. Because you can see whole cab getting the haircut like that though. Like, but the point being is he worldly. You could be like, don't get me wrong. I like sneakers. I heard the elder say he likes sneakers. I know a few brothers that like sneakers. I'm a older guy. I'm not the elder's age. I'm a babe in their eyes. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people probably be like, why do you wear so many sneakers? Because they're comfortable. I like sneakers because they're comfortable. I would prefer a pair of some sneakers before some dress shoes. But, I've had some dress shoes. I got, what I mean? Like the point is I like sneakers. But, so, again, but for him not to even know the account like that, that's how it went. Basically, that's when Joseph was the pretty much the viceroy of Egypt. It didn't say that the Israelites sold themselves into slavery. It said the Egyptians sold themselves into slavery. I don't want him to comment back But I mean, at the same time, again, you could tell the word, because again, it went into all that guy, this guy that he's pushing the angle, just like Elon Musk. They're pushing the angle. He said that if AI is the enemy, so then why would you want to join on to it? Because if you can't beat them, you join them, right? Well, a mindset like that, if you really a believer, is going to get you destroyed.
Turn, they sold their livestock, right? Then a couple years go by, they don't have any more food. They got to go back to their enemy. The enemy gives them more food. And then finally, it happens like 3 times. And God's chosen people come back and say, dude, we're just going to sell ourselves into slavery. We'll be your slaves. Just feed us.
And again, that's the first blueprint for what pretty much is about to take place. People are going to be so downtrodden and so fucked up that people are going to be willing to accept, pretty much whatever this devil's solution is. People sitting up there talking about some the mass visa exit entering tracking system. You know what I mean? Which, if you read between the lines and you got the ISEF, you can understand that's a system in order to track you no matter what, which is going to be under the skin. I made the statement a few different times. It ain't we waiting on the MOTB, but the MOTB is here. You got individuals that's got microchips. You know what I mean? Like, you got people with the technology in them.
And if you don't think that's not using a good sense of fear, because God says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of understanding, then you don't understand fear. Fear is a motivator. Fear keeps you off the railroad tracks when the train is coming at you.
That's what I wanted. He said fear is a motivator. So fear is supposed to get you to do something. If it's just turned back, everybody's not set up to be a prophet, but at the same time, the scriptures say fear of the Lord is what's the beginning of wisdom. So I read the scriptures talk about the Heavenly Father being a great, just with this scripture right here, Jeremiah shall make you fear. I can't see it. Jeremiah 10:10 says, but the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is the true power. He is the living power and an everlasting king. At his wrath, the earth shall tremble, and the nation shall not be able to abide his indignation, which is indignation goes into righteous anger, like how, I'm a comic book head, I'm into sci-fi. I love movies, although I don't watch movies as much as I used to, but these things I would do, like if I wanted to pass the time, enjoy it, because I'm a visual person, but Hawk, his anger with, which, a lot of the comic book characters is based off of, old fables and stories. Incredible Hulk is nothing but Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but long story short, when he got angry, his anger was his weapon as well as his, the Hawk was stupid, that's why if you go into, if you really a comic book head, you'll see like it was certain people that could whoop him. Like Spider-Man used to always whoop on him. You know what I mean? Because his temper got the best of him. Well, I was listening to a particular brother. He was going into that scene on Batman with Bane. He said, "Victory has defeated you." Because you got complacent, got compliant. You thought that it was going to be like this. You didn't stay, how the elder brother say, with the edge. You didn't keep your edge sharpened. Keep your edge. I was listening to something that brother said. He said sometimes the Lord might give you something and it ain't always just the blessing you think it is. It could be a blessing, but a blessing could turn into a test, or it could have been a test from the get-go. The Lord might give you a woman. Okay, well, let's see if you're going to maintain all the, because you got to understand women require time and energy. So what you going to give your time to? Me or her? And it says our woman is the scriptures, is the wisdom, is Sophia. You know what's so spiritual about my little walk in this thing? All the streets I stayed on since I've been in the truth have had some spiritual, like they just been certain names and whatnot. So I'm probably gonna end it with I had Malachi 1:6, but I ain't even gonna get that. I'm gonna end it probably with 2 Corinthians chapter 5. It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And I'm going to start at verse 8. We are confident, I say, and willing to rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. Meaning he says willing to die. Verse 9. Wherefore we labor that whether present or absent we may be accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Mashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he have done, whether it be good or bad. You know, that should be a constant motivator to keep you on the straight and narrow. We're going to go off. You know, you look at our forefathers and great men that came before us, and a lot of men went off. You know what I mean? You know, it's easy, you know, because it's sinful flesh. Look at David. He was a man after the Most High's heart, and yet still he did one of the most, you know, foulest acts by pretty much taking out Uriah, the Hittite, over Bathsheba. And you got to think about it. Women threw themselves at King David. So Bathsheba had to be a bad woman. The ministry of the ministry of reconciliation. Verse 11, the point. Knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, Yahweh shall we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto the Most High, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciousness. So because of, you know, we have a relationship with the Lord because, you know, the different trials and tribulations and things that we have endured, you know, to walk this walk, you know, the straight gate. We do the will and the work of Yahweh Shai week in and week out, bringing out the truth, you know, on the highways and hedges in order that we're not judged. It tells you in Ezekiel chapter 3, if you call yourself a watchman, is certain things required of you to be. You know, you have a job and a duty to do, not just a job. A duty and a job is two totally different things. And like I was listening to, again, I don't even think I made mention of it. He was going into how the one brother was going into how, you know, the police are not obligated to, you know, pretty much die for you. You know, you call 911 and it's a situation. The police is not. That's why sometimes the police don't come. But he said, but a husband is. You know, a husband has a duty, you know, to provide and protect. So, and you got a lot of women that don't even want one, but they will in that day. And that's why I always made the statement about, you know, in that day, I'm going to just walk past women. Because a woman could be a headache on this side. So just how much more so in that day. Now, don't get me wrong. The Lord got certain scenarios and situations set up for his men, you know. It may be a situation where it be a female out there or, well, let's rephrase, a sister out there. But I think you're going to be able to recognize that easily. You know, the Lord ain't just giving you no hoes, though. You know, I mean, you know, now, again, this is me speaking as a man. Look at Mary Magdalene, you know. You know, she was considered a harlot, but at the same time, she believed. And that's why you got to be careful of who you offend in this truth. You know, you seek salvation, you know, and again, it's easier said than done. You know what I mean? You see the state of our people, and then, you know, knowledge puffeth up. So Jay get proud in the spirit because you was given the truth. And that's one of the main things not to be proud of, because when you realize that the truth is a gift, like the Lord activated your spirit, but he could have very well activated somebody in your families. You get what I'm saying? And then you can still be, I know how I was in the world. Yeah. So again, just imagine, you know, it could be vice versa. You know, what's that movie, Freaky Friday, where the parent became the daughter became the parent? It could have been like some shit like that, reversal of fortune. Like, That should humble you for real. That's fearful. Because again, just imagine being a motherfucker chasing the banana in life and you know what it ain't no bananas though. You just you know how like they do the bunny race where they put something on the thing and the dog follow it. I forgot what that shit called. Like they got a thing. It's called it builds up their prey drive where because the dog's supposed to chase shit. So it's a thing with a string on it and you pull it. You get it for puppies for real. Sometimes when the dogs get adults, they got them with a mechanical. Like you get a spring pole. It's kind of like a spring pole. But a spring pole is what it was that they hang off of the tree. They pull on them, dogs like to yank, like tug of war type shit. But a spring pole is like one that's on a string and you throw it over here and then it baits them. It kind of like a fishing hook. And they'll run over there to that, then you could pull it and get them to chase it. But long story short, you would see, it make me think of the commercials where if you're a piece of money hanging and you chase it like the rat race. We all running after the rat race, chasing after this money. But now, even 2/3 is kind of awake like, oh yeah, shit. I was just talking to a dude yesterday and he was up there talking about, everybody ain't got it. Like he was just talking about $2,000. And, that's statistical because it was like most people ain't got $1,000 in their bank account to cover a repair. If your car was, I went through that. And the only reason why I was able to recover is because of brothers. I'll never forget. And the Lord did me funny. I had a car. I spent my last $1,000. So I wasn't really in the scenario or the situation. My last $1,000, I spent it on my car and kind of find out the engine was going. Well, it was the manifold. So I had to junk the car. But point being, I didn't have the repair for it. This everything fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Just imagine being in the world and then you recognize it. Nigga, there ain't really no point in. See, and then having faith and hope and how about you outside, that'll make you hold on and be like, well, let me go ahead and trust in the Lord, But a nigga that ain't got no faith in the Lord or nothing, and then don't got no faith in the society, that nigga might lose it. You know what I'm saying? Talking about I'm going on a killing spree type shit. Like you don't know what he might do, He might kill his whole family. You don't know. Again, everybody's so stressed out. You know what I mean? Again, I could never. I would rather go without and just depend on the Lord. I mean, the Lord, throughout y'all, but always blessing me with exactly the things we need. We have just what we need. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get in the habit of just buying shit. So, but I can't imagine working no job, 2 and 3 jobs, and barely getting back. Fuck that. You know what I mean? Job I got now making us work more. I don't want to do all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be around you fucking people like that. Only good thing is I don't see me getting fired by the Edomites like I was the last couple of jobs because there's too many niggas here. See, these Edomites got it set up where they like, we gonna have the niggas run the zoo. You know what I mean? Like when you look at prison is the perfect operation. It's the inmates that run the prison. That's why how you think is prison justice? A nigga, a pedophile, he get touched. It ain't the guards giving up that information. They got access to your fucking record and all that. So you got to be careful. Like prisons is, yeah. And that's cold because you have some fucked up individuals in prison, but yet still it's a sense of justice in there. Yeah. You'll see some crazy shit off in prison, yeah. So I'm just rambling at this point, but yeah, even with that, the scriptures talk about certain men gonna pretty much be delivered, and go into these prisons, So you got to fear. Well, I ain't gonna say fear effective if you have to go into that because that's just part of your testimony. What I'm saying is you got to fear the Lord in that sense because you don't want the Lord to leave you at your, your weakest moment. Like that's gonna be a fucking. I mean, I've been locked up, you know what I mean. And then the thing is, like they was talking about that alligator Alcatraz. Like I can believe them not giving them access to Bibles and whatnot, because you got to understand this administration really bringing, like they doing away with the Constitution. They've done so many things that's against the Constitution. You might as well say it's not even valid. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. When they do what they doing with these ICE raids is pretty much, that's why they pretty much covering their faces. That's against the Constitution. You got to think about this. Look, In order to have to ID, you have to have committed a crime, right? So just because you don't know if this person is a immigrant or migrant or whatever, you have to have to ID. So for them to just be snatching motherfuckers, that's why they covering their faces. So based on that alone, your Constitution dead. So that should make you fear. But the scriptures tell you that pretty much, let me get it, and I'm going to end it with that, because it talks about we don't fear with perfect love, roughly paraphrased. This is the book of 1 John chapter 4 and verse 17. I'm going to start up. Start at verse 15. Whosoever shall confess that Yahushua is the Son of the Most High dwelleth in him, and he in the Most High. And we have known and believed the love that the Most High hath to us. The Most High is love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in the Most High, and the Most High in him. Because you're going to love your brothers, your fellow brothers in his truth. You know, scriptures talk about there's no love, greater love than pretty much a brother lay down his life for one another. And Yahushua ultimately laid down his life for all of Yasharallah. Verse 17, here is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. Verse 18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. Yeah. So fear is a great motivator, but it's not going to be no fear of any repercussions if you have, love, for Yahweh Shem Yahushua, It says perfect fear casteth out love, And trust and believe the Lord's elect is going to love him, These are certain spirits that's not going to be able to, and again, based on just, when this persecution comes and how, the true believers deal with that, is going to convert individuals. Because you're going to have hell on earth. You got to think about this. Think about back in slavery days, which it was affecting everybody, but you had a spirit on certain jakes to literally suck it. When I think of Uncle Tom's Cabin, a lot of people don't even know that. You got Sambo and you had Uncle Tom. They think Uncle Tom is a derogatory term, but Uncle Tom was the antagonist. Is I think it's protagonist. I can't even think. He was the hero of the book, though. And then you'll think again, Uncle Tom is a derogatory. Even Charles the white bitch ass know that. I cannot stand that because he portrays he's like this law-abiding citizen. This is a nigga. He'll fuck on your daughter, fuck your wife. He'll tell you these things. He ever do anything for $1? I hate mentioning him, but when I mention him, I will say this. He ain't just the average nigga, put it like that. The average nigga content with some food stamps and a stimulus check, you know what I mean? That ain't gonna be sufficient for that. But again, like I said, you got to be able to read a nigga character. Like I said, again, you die with. I'm not saying go do 20 years, but at the same time, I'm not gonna put myself in those certain situations. It says a lot about a person's character. You stand up we about to see a lot of people's characters is the truth, and I can't speak on nobody else's. All I can do is try to be the man that I know that I hope the Lord continue to have me be, because every man ain't gonna literally do what we do, in fear of being ridiculed, in fear of being persecuted, in fear of what the world gonna think. Well, what did Yahushua say? But be a good cheer, for I have overcome the world. So if he overcame it, we can overcome it. And like I said again, if you have true love for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, you go cast out fear of whatever man could do to you. A retribution is coming. The Lord said, I'm coming to judge the world. So if you're a so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, similar Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the law, statutes, commandments of your power. His true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, or you will be destroyed. And with that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Kodash. Double honors to the elders of the. I should have named it Fear the Walking Dead. Because the Lord can take away the spirit from you and you could be one of these walking dead. After thinking of all these different scenarios, everybody was just scared when the motherfucking earthquake's going, but it's out of sight, out of mind. Just locking down the motherfucking thing, talking about man, and it was done tacky. But then again, like I said, to show you how simple, that's deep when you take time to think about it, like how simple these people is. I ain't gonna lie. I went to the job. Certain people was like they got sick, yada yada yada. Then I remember a guy that I was cool with that I worked at a job. He got it, and I'm like, I remember at one point in time they was talking about the test strips basically had the CV on it. I'm talking about a big ass deception for real. Like that's crazy. And I just show you how powerful the Lord is. He gonna use this low level ass dude to really pull a faster. Yeah, people gonna be man. Listen, right? Did anybody that had the culprit right in his sights? Like you gonna be angry to the motherfucker. So with that, I'm going to end the lesson. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Simple Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the laws, statutes, commandments of your power. The true name of the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. You will be destroyed. With that, I want to give all praise, all honor, all glory to call Lawyer Blah Yahweh Bashim Yahshua Bashim. Double honors to the elders and to my apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives, as well as their freedom to do so, now more so never. Shalom to the Akim and the Aquata to the list of the learning, Lord willingly, this is edified. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, but who subscribe to this truth. To you I say shalom. Till next time, Lord willingly, shalom, shalom. Kwame Asher Allah and Mawaf Lababah.